What's up, nerds? Back with another video. In this one, we're going to be going through five-minute daily movement routines for beginners to help you with throwing punches. The first one we're going to do is unlocking shoulder mobility, prepares for punches and posture. And so this is going to be a real simple one. The only thing you'll need is a broom or some sort of long stick. And that's because the first movement that we're going to do, and something that's pretty easy, hopefully I don't turn off my light, is we're simply going to make sure that we've got a nice shoulder wide stance. If anything, a little bit wider, right? And what we want to focus on when we're in this stance is that we've got our feet have a nice wide toes, right? You're wearing either wide-toed shoes or you're doing this barefoot or with socks on, right? You want to make sure that your feet have nice wide toes and that you're pulling into the ground. And so right now, that pulling that I'm doing with my hands, that's what's lowering me down, right? So we've got that. It should feel like a little bit of work, right? And then after that, we're gonna have our stomach, nice, real strong braced core. And if you've seen any of Squat University's stuff on YouTube, his key is that you push your fingers into your abdomen, right? And what you're doing is you're bracing by pushing out on those fingers. And I'm not doing that, pushing my stomach out, right? I'm merely bracing my core and giving myself a nice pressure, right? So we've got our feet locked in. We've got our feet locked in, our core nice and braced. And then in this position, right, we're just gonna very simply lift up our broom. I'm in the basement gym, so sorry if you don't have to bend, obviously, right? If you're doing this in a room with ceilings or at the gym. But you're basically gonna get this nice brace, get your core nice, right? Everything's nice and activated. And then all we're doing is we're seeing how far back we can go. And when we get there, we're gonna hold it for just a couple seconds. 1, 2, 3. And then we're slowly coming back. And if there's any parts of that movement where you feel a shoulder twinge, you feel any sort of tightness, right? Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our broom, we're gonna put it down, right? And we're going to move on to our next exercise. However, you can do it like we're doing now, and it's just to give yourself a little bit more shoulder movement and to kind of prime your shoulders. And it's gonna be the exact same thing with our feet. Nice gripped feet, nice good position, got our core, activated core. And all we're doing is some nice shoulder spins. Well, not shoulder spins. Well, for me, I'm spinning from my shoulders. I'm not thinking of moving my hands and then my arms move. I'm thinking really, you can see my hands are limp. It's because I'm focusing on moving my shoulders, right? I'm just doing this, except, which is another thing you could do, right? But I'm just doing that movement from the shoulders, and we're really getting them loose, getting the movement in. And if you can't do that, right? The next thing to do is to find yourself a wall, right? I'll use my pipes right here, right? And if you're next to the wall, right, all you're doing is you're climbing with your hands, climbing your way up the wall until you are as high as you can get with your shoulders, where you feel that tightness, where you feel that, that tightness, right? Where you start to feel that little like, ooh, ow. And then you get to that point, you stop, and you just breathe through it. Again, all of these things, you've got a nice, stable stance, got your core, core activated, because what we're doing with these is we're doing these as a preparation for the punch, right? So you want to pretend like you are in that punching setup, which is, again, when we're punching, nice, we're transferring the power from the floor through our feet, through our legs, rotating our core, rotating our hips, coming through, and right there, get that nice punch, right? So we want to make sure that our shoulders are nice and loose and ready to go, because that's one of the spots where the power, if you don't properly extend, right, the wrists and the shoulders are the biggest issues. I barely have any pain in my elbows after doing this for over a decade. I don't have any biceps, no triceps, no nothing, no core, no back, no nothing. It's all either in the shoulders or the wrists. So we want to make sure our shoulders are nice and loose. And then the last thing, another movement that we can do after we do the fingers, after we do the rotating, right? After we do the broom or stick movement, right? The last thing, and I like to think of this is the Henry Cavill, right? And so the Henry Cavill, if you like Mission Impossible, he does the reload, which is he's fighting, right? They're getting to a fight, and then he hits him with the reload, and then he's ready to come up and punch, right? So I just like to hit him with the reload, and we're getting a nice extension all the way down, pulling all the way back up, nice extension all the way down, boom. And then you're ready. And then the one thing, again, after that, another good movement is to get the shoulders nice and loose. This is a good one for that. Boom. You can over-exaggerate the movement, right? You can pull up, pull back, bend over a little bit. You can pull back with your back, really feeling it in the upper back of the shoulders, trying to pinch them, pull them back together, right? And throughout all these movements, do all these movements, maybe a circuit of 2, do maybe 30 seconds of each, right? And if you get to a point again where you feel tightness, change exercises so you can get to that area. You can slow it down, and then that's really preparing ourselves. And again, you're practicing having the nice tight feet, or really you're rooting yourself into the ground. You've got your core braced, because those are going to be where the power comes from for the punch. Because we're not going to be, when we're Zümboxing, we're not going to be, I mean, you can jab a little bit with your arms, right? However, when we do punch, which is rare, we want to really get a good technique, good transfer of power, and we're punching through the bag, not pushing the bag, because that's how we're going to injure ourselves. Simple footwork for better movement. Basic boxing and dancing footwork. This one, don't need any props or anything for it. It's going to be a real easy one. And we're going to move the camera down in a second, right? So bear with me. I'm just showing you what the upper body is, because it's a very Spanish salsa kind of movement. It's a lot of hip movement. If you know Jean-Claude Van Damme, it's very Jean-Claude Van Damme type of movement, right? And it's literally, all we're doing is straight up and down, front and back, and then we're throwing in a little bit of the hip wiggle in there, right? Super basic, nothing complicated, and it's because that is going to be the main thing that we're doing. When we're punching and we're taking it nice and easy, basic beginner, we're just going up and down, focusing on moving with the bag, focusing on keeping that distance. So when you throw the punch, you are getting nice all the way out, boom, tap, coming back into the bag, coming back out. You could throw another one if the bag's moving, come back in. But it is super simple. We're not doing any cross feet, anything. We're not doing any hops or anything like that. We're just doing nice and simple in and out. So let's change the camera angle so you can see what I mean. So it's nice and simple, literal, side to side, front to back, baby. And with the hands, I like to do the alternating side that we're moving. So we're going left to right, and we've got, when we move our hips out to the left, we're raising our right hand. When we go, again, opposite, we're going left. Well, I guess the fists, your hands, are the same with your legs, but your hips, you're doing the opposite of your hips. And again, nothing crazy. Front foot right in front of the back one. You're not doing any, there's no cross legs, there's no hopping, no nothing, right? If anything, what you can do, if you're feeling fancy, is you throw in a little twist on the ball of your foot. Because that twist is going to help you transfer power even better. But again, this is just beginner stuff. We're just doing nice hips, feeling good, hips feeling loose, feeling juicy, and then we're just coming in and out. And then we're salsaing back, salsaing forward. Boom, 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 boom. Super duper ultra simple. Don't underestimate it. This timing, getting used to moving up and down, getting used to having your fists come at the same time as when you're moving, it adds up quick when you're doing touching with the bags, and when the bag's moving in and out with you, and when you're going around the bag, when you're up and down, you're bopping to the music. We're adding on a lot of layers here pretty quick, and so that's why the basics are important. Number 3, building core strength for stability. So, this is going to be a super easy one. We've got 2 main things that we're going to be doing, as well as a third that you can add on top of it. But we take 2 things as our main ones. And then the third is a combination of 3 exercises, which already has a name. So, first thing we're going to do is horse stance, which is extremely simple. This is something you could look up. Martial artists have been doing this for decades. And it's simply, you start with your feet together, you go open out once, out again, open out again, and then straighten out, right? So we end with, you can see my feet are about right outside my shoulders, right? And so obviously my shoulders here, my arms outside. You can see that my arms are pretty much exactly the width of my feet. WIDTH. God, I hate English, but with the width of my feet. And all we're doing is pulling ourselves down, keeping our core engaged. I like to have my arms out because the way my skeletal structure is, I've got really long femurs, which make it tough for me to stay upright in horse stance. So it's just like a super extra difficulty for me. Hopefully you have shorter femurs, which make it not as impossible for you. And we'll show you from the side what I mean. So when I've got my horse stance, right, and we're all set and I pull myself down, you can see I naturally want to lean forward, but I have to keep my back straight and up. And this is a killer, absolute killer beginner exercise. And you're only going to be able to do it for 15, 20 seconds at a time if you're doing it properly. Because again, to keep that balance, to keep your core or to act, you need to activate your core to keep the balance, to do all of this properly, to be able to lean back and still stay balanced and to maintain that horse stance. You need to have a tight core. And I know I'm talking, but hey, look at me, Mr. Instructor, can talk and hold horse stance at the same time. But so we've got our feet together, right? We go out one, out two, straighten out. Our width is the width of our arms, and I'm simply pulling myself down to this horse stance. I've got my core nice and tight and braced. You can have your arms out or your arms in, holding them together, right? And this should be killing your quads, and it should be killing your core, because you need to do both of those things to keep yourself upright and to keep the proper horse stance. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to have to go down on the floor for. And number two is something called a dead bug, which is part of the McGill Big Three, but I think it's more important and the best of the three to do for beginners, because the rest of the McGill Big Three has some stuff that's a little bit more intermediate, right? So dead bugs, you just need your arms, but something with a little bit of weight is ideal. Doesn't have to be any huge amount of weight at all. Again, if you're beginning, you could just be doing this with your arms straight up. But the dead bug is essentially a bit like the horse stance, but on the ground. So I'll get on the ground and show you what I mean. So dead bugs we're going to be on the ground, backs on the ground, right? We're going to have our arms up right in front of us. And all we're going to do is lift our legs, mainly hinging at the hips. You can think about it as lifting your feet up, having them at a 90-degree angle. Honestly, the best way to think about it is really thinking about it like you're sitting in a chair, but that chair's on the ground, right? You've got your arms up, and when you're doing this, just holding it, you should feel that there should be a natural pocket formed in your lower back, right? And that's the key to this exercise, why this exercise is so strong or so beneficial, especially for beginners, because what we're doing really is just like we had horse stance, where we were bracing our core while standing up to keep balanced. This is like a horse stance on the ground, right? We're sitting in a chair on the floor, and all you're doing is bracing your core to basically keep your lower back against the floor, floor, right? And then we're sitting on an invisible chair. We've got our core braced, our lower back is flat on the ground. We've got our arms facing up or holding whatever we want to hold, right? If you want to be a little bit more advanced, if you don't have a weight, you can have your arms be back at an angle. And so all we're doing now is we're hinging at our hips, so our whole leg comes down and our heel is touching the bottom of the floor. So we're keeping that 90-degree angle of our legs, and we're just simply touching the ground. So let me just real quick, get a nice little crack in my back. Got our arms up. I'm sitting in my invisible chair, right? I would have my head on the ground. I was just having my head up so I could look into the camera, right? So head on the ground, boom. My core is tight, keeping it braced. Lower back is on the ground. And all I'm doing is hinging and bringing it back up. And touching the floor with my ankle and bringing it back up. And you will feel, if you are doing it properly, you will feel that in your lower back. And you will feel that in your core. And that's how you know you are doing it properly, because even though this is a beginner exercise, this is one hell of a beginner exercise, right? And the next three, which I'll just talk about, and I'll do a very small example, but the McGill Big Three are the best. It's the best stability combo in physical fitness, right? And essentially, it's a combination of an almost side plank, right? And you do that on both sides. However, again, we're getting a little bit more intermediate, and we want to keep this beginner, right? The dead bug, which we just did, which is the easiest of them, and something called a bird dog, which is where you've got one leg out, the alternate hand up, and you're keeping your core nice and tight. You're keeping your body, you want to keep a flat plane for your body, and then you're coming in and you're touching your leg and you're going back out. And to make that more advanced, you can come in with your elbow and touch your elbow to your knee. But this is a great exercise because you're keeping your hips in a perpendicular line to your back. It forces you to really activate your core, and it's just a great, overall great exercise. So I mentioned the big three, McGill Big Three, because they are king and definitely something to work up to. Once you get dead bug is too easy for you and you can hold horse stance for like a minute or so, definitely work your way up. However, for right now, for the beginner part of this, for getting your core activated, getting your core stability up, and getting ready for throwing punches, horse stance, dead bug, those are the big two that I personally suggest you do. Breathing and rhythm and movement. So, this is a lot of Tai Chi kind of stuff, right? And this is kind of where the hokey pokey martial artist in me kind of peeks his head out a little bit, because the main thing to focus on that we just talked about, the main principle to focus on that we just talked about, is the keeping your core nice and tight, right? Keeping that strength, transferring that strength from the floor, keeping your feet dug in, root yourself in the ground, right? And the ability to turn that on, turn that off, keep it maintained while also staying loose and being able to do movements. And this is kind of where the Tai Chi kind of comes into play, because Tai Chi, it's slow in practice to begin, right? However, when you reach a level of mastery in Tai Chi, you are able to move around, but despite your fast movements, if someone was to tell you to stop and to push, you would not be able to move that person, because while they are doing this movement, their entire body is maintaining that strength, is transferring. It's that internal energy, or they've taken that, the power of the world, the power of everything around them, and have created this internal energy from it. And again, I know this is all like hokey pokey martial artsy, right? But that's what this is all about. It's all about being able to maintain your core, maintain that rooting to the earth, and be able to move around, but you're moving around with intent. I'm not just doing bullshit martial arts movements and stuff that looks like it's, something out of a Jackie Chan movie. If you were to feel my body and to be around me while I'm doing these things, and you tell me to stop and move, everything I'm doing is doing with intent. Every movement I do is, it requires breathing. It requires mental strength, because you're just moving with intent. This is the worst one to explain for me. However, it's easy to practice. All you're doing is you're rooting yourself in the ground. You've practiced horse stance, right? You've got your core nice and tight. It's activated from all the dead bugs. And all you're doing is you're pulling back with your back, pushing out with your chest. And you're practicing this slow, right? Just like in Tai Chi, where you push the ball out and then you pull it in, right? If you were to do that exercise at the gym, or like I do these things at the gym, this is one of the ways I like to work out at the gym, is it really is time under tension. It really is resistance training. Because if you were to put a machine, like a lower back row, if I was to sit down in a low back row and put this in and do my movement like I'm doing my Tai Chi movement, right? I could probably do that with 75, 80 pounds. So a plate and a 45 and a 25 on the machine. And it just feels like I'm just doing this naturally. It just feels like the movement, because again, you're pretending that you're moving with intent. Every muscle you're thinking is your every muscle is connected to your head. You're thinking about your back. You're thinking about the shoulder. You're thinking about the squeeze. You're thinking about the chest pushing out. You're feeling that chest activate. You're feeling your pec. You're pushing it out. And so that's really, it's a terrible, god-awful, terrible explanation of breathing and rhythm and movement. But that's what really the Zümboxing is about, because we practice everything slow. We practice everything shadow boxing before we go first. But then when it comes to the actual punches, that's where the strength, if anything, comes from. It comes from the subconscious mind-muscle connection that we have developed. And so that's why I love lifting as well as doing this, because it's just, when I'm thinking about that explosive force, when I'm bench pressing, that is me throwing a punch. And it directly transfers. I notice that when I want to, I can punch pretty damn hard, because all that benching, that's where it functionally comes into practice for me. So we're now going to do some easy, simple shadow boxing, right? And it's going to be real simple. We're going to go up, up, throw one, throw two, go back, throw one, throw two, out, throw one, two, back, throw one, two, go in, throw one, two, and don't forget to just, all right, actually, hold on. All right, so now we're gonna do just a simple shadow boxing movement, right? Flow. It's gonna be literally just in and out and punching with the floor nice, rooted to the floor. Our hips, we're rotating our hips, right? We're fully extending out, and we're just gonna do crossover, right? Nice and easy. So we're gonna go back, 1, 2, up and in, 1, 2, back, 1, 2, out, 1, 2, back, 1, 2, forward, 1, 2, back, 1, 2, forward, 1, 2, back, 1, 2. If you want, you can throw a little, extend those legs, get yourself a little bit more power, your body a little bit more involved. 1, 2, 1, 2. Keep our head. If anything, if you want to bop a little bit, bop a little bit. Keep the head focused. For me, my head's focused on the camera. Come out, punch, punch, come back, punch, punch, forward, 1, 2, back, 1, 2, 1, 2. Come forward. 1, 2, 3. Come back. 1, 2, 3. Focus on bopping down. You're pulling yourself down. You're extending your legs out. Boom, boom, boom. Got our hips. Boom, boom, boom. Our hips nice, and we remember we got the Jean-Claude Van Damme kinda, you know? Boom. We're exploding out, pushing out off of our back leg. Boom, boom. And if you want to do, and don't worry about the head movement moving from the neck. If anything, the head movement comes from dropping down the hips, right? You're focusing on your target, and you're coming, and you're extending out. Extend, boom, 1, 2. Coming back in, you're looking, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we'll end our shadow boxing, a little easy shadow boxing, with just some nice, right what we're looking at. Instead of moving and throwing punches with the movement. Sorry. So now we're going to end with some straight on punches. Instead of having our legs, instead of moving our legs and throwing our punches with our legs, we're going to have our legs staying still, almost like we're in a horse stance, right? We're going to have our arms up. We're going to have our feet rooted into the ground, our core nice and tight, and we're just going to do some end of the day, nice. If you want, you could do the Wing Chun up and down punch. If you want to do the twist at the end of the punch, and we're just ending with some nice horse stance punches. If you want, move the shoulders back, full extend all the way out, or you can throw jabs, but nice and simple. Same thing we're doing before, except we're just now not moving our hips or not moving our legs. And you should feel it a little bit in the low back if you're fully all the way extending out, right? There we go, nice and simple shadow boxing. Okay, so that's it for our beginner little free video. 5 different things you could do, 5 days. At the end, you can put it all together to work it into one little beginner Zümboxing session. You've got yourself some footwork. You've got yourself some shoulder, arm mobility. You've got yourself some core stability. We've got some of the ideas of the martial arts, how to combine it all, how to mentally think of everything, how to transfer all of those techniques. And then a little bit of practice, shadow boxing practice, putting it into practice. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy Zümboxing. I hope you continue this journey with me and enjoy the videos and watch the videos and do a little bit of Zümboxing yourself and gain some confidence and hopefully get a good sweat on. Smoke grass, eat ass, be excellent to each other, and I will see you in the next video. Deuces.